You guys have asked for it, you've been waiting, and now you're getting some more Roadrunner action coming up today. Sorry that you haven't seen a lot of updates on this car. Alex and I were working pretty heavily on the 78 Power Wagon this summer and fall, and also kind of got back into the Duster a little bit. But the poor Roadrunner's been sitting here patiently waiting for me to get back and finish pulling off the rest of the sheet metal from when we pulled the quarter panel off this summer. So we're gonna go ahead and get the remainder of that bordering metal away from the body of the car, and then we've got some metal repairs to make that the last people who worked in this car, if you've seen the former videos, you know, just ugly welds, things around here that just do not look good, that we need to really clean up and make this thing kind of come up into a different level of quality. So stuff like this, we're gonna fix all that. Eventually get to the point where I pull up the car, probably put it on jack stands in here, and then go ahead and remove the rear axle, get underneath it, clean up the whole underside of the car. It's really not in the worst shape, so to speak, but it needs some help. It's really not terrible underneath. Luckily, these frame rails back in this section of the car are pretty good. I had made repairs on these rear frame rails behind the axle already, so it's mostly just getting the metal cleaned up and getting it prepared to be primed and painted. Nonetheless, there's some patching here we're gonna have to do in the floor here in the seating area, so still a lot of work left ahead for this car, but we're gonna keep chiseling away at it, and you guys can see all those updates right here. Another thing, I'm not really sure how many of you guys follow me and Alex on Instagram and TikTok, but there we made a pretty important announcement recently. And so for those of you who are behind the curve and don't know, here on YouTube, Alex and I are expecting our first baby this summer, and it's really exciting, really big news for us. It's gonna be, you know, it's just gonna be a huge change. You know, we're gonna have baby Finelli in the house, and we're gonna have a little one to teach all the cool stuff that we get to do out here in the garage on cars, trucks, bikes, and everything that we do. So it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be really special. It's a really huge change for us. So if you guys have been seeing a little bit less of us here on YouTube lately, and in the months to come, maybe you'll understand why. For those of you out there with families of your own, I'm sure you understand the deal, but nonetheless, we'll still be out here working on things. I still got a lot to do. Got renovations I'm doing in the house at the same time, the full-time job, the cars. It's all gonna get done no matter what. I'll try not to overwork myself too much in the process, but you know how I do. Nonetheless, for those of you guys who didn't know, that's the big excitement and update for me and Alex right there. Here's another example of some spotty work from the people before me. So you can see how the factory rocker arm, you can see how from the factory, this rocker panel was connected here with lead. The seam was leaded to the quarter panel. From the factory, you can see that the rocker panel here was leaded into the quarter panel, but you can see that lead is still connecting some metal there. This is metal left from the original quarter panel that they actually didn't remove from the car, and then they just wedged the new quarter panel right over top of it, made a sandwich like that. So now you've got metal sandwiched in between there, which is just gonna lead rusting to happen, which ultimately it did. And then when that happens like that, it causes metal to move, your paint cracks, and it just creates a whole lot of issues down the road. So that's why I'm really being meticulous going through this whole car and seeing what they did, and we're removing that. So this here is just the remnants of the quarter panel. If you saw in the earlier episode, which I'll throw a link up in the top video right now. So this is what was left over from that. And then this metal here, they just never bothered to remove it. So yeah, we're gonna get rid of this garbage right now. Here's another example of some spotty work from the people before me. So you can see how from the factory, you can see that the rocker panel here was leaded into the quarter panel, but you can see that lead is still connecting some metal there. This is metal left from the original quarter panel that they actually didn't remove from the car, and then they just wedged the new quarter panel right over top of it, made a sandwich like that. So now you've got metal sandwiched in between there, which is just gonna lead rusting to happen, which ultimately it did. And then when that happens like that, it causes metal to move, your paint cracks, and it just creates a whole lot of issues down the road. So that's why I'm really being meticulous going through this whole car and seeing what they did, and we're removing that. So this here is just the remnants of the quarter panel. If you saw in the earlier episode, which I'll throw a link up in the top video right now. So this is what was left over from that. And then this metal here, they just never bothered to remove it. So yeah, we're gonna get rid of this garbage right now. biggest sign that I haven't worked on this car too long is that the tire goes flat here on the driver's side. So here we go, bringing it back to life. And there we have it, back to life. What I'm doing is trying to get the remainder of this quarter panel that was welded to the inside of this fender well, and you can see all the booger welds that they had done when they welded this thing up, and just all the extra pieces of wire just hanging in there and everything. So I'm just going to carefully slice this out, and then we'll have to repair this part of the inner fender well the way we did on the other side. You notice, obviously, I'm wearing ear protection. I've got a face shield on, so this thing, in case it splits up, doesn't catch me in the eye. I've got some illumination, and I'm using my electric grinder because, you know, instead of having the compressor continuously turning on all day, it's just going to be using a lot of air. I just like to go electric for something like this, where I know I'm going to be grinding for quite a while. Now you can see there's still some metal left from this the part of the quarter, so we're gonna have to cut. We're gonna have to make ourselves a cut right along this area here, but right in this spot you can see where they had boogered this in, where this inner flange is kind of rolling under. So watch this. Right there. And that's what I'm talking about. This other ½ inch of metal is hanging under here in this area, so we're gonna have to cut right this way, and we'll get that out. And another reason why I'm being so meticulous about this is because, yeah, we're gonna have to replace a lot of this area in here because it's already rusted out, but still I don't want to cut more away that I don't have to until I really determine kind of what needs to stay and what needs to go. If I just go ahead and cut this out right now, I might be doing more work than I need to. There's mostly just surface rust right here. We could probably get that down. It's just this lower edge that we're gonna have to replicate and save like we did on the other side. And this is what we did here with the other side, welded in a patch that I actually used from the other quarter panel when I took it off. And now it looks pretty good. Missing a spot on my finger there. That sucked. That's a little better. All right, let's keep going. Just helps to expose the area we're working in a little bit. We don't want to pry too hard on here and actually fold the fender well under either, so it's just a little careful art, because you see right there, if I go like that, how it's rolling this metal in. You don't want to go too hard, just enough to expose the areas that we're going to have to keep cutting, and continue on that way. Last little bit right here. And if you bend metal back and forth a little bit, it'll eventually break. And there we have it. Gone. Okay, now all that remains here are just all these really gross booger welds along this wheel weld. So I'm gonna go through and cut that out and make a nice patch area and patch in this whole lip right here. But we still got more to do to get this job completed, so we'll continue along here. But that basically is the process, boys and girls. It's not all glory. It's a lot of hard work getting the car that's this rusted out worked on. You know, this is taking a lot of time, being a bit of effort to undo what people did. You can still see a lot of booger welds here along this bottom lip. This height here is where it should be, but you can see how it's hanging down about an 1/8 inch more with these extra welds they've got. So I'm gonna have to get those carefully removed. And then you can see a lot of rot that we've got here in this inner rocker structure. So I'm gonna probably cut out a nice box and then make a new patch and then weld that in. You know, replace all the structurally compromised areas on the car. Cutting this area out because it's garbage and it needs to go. But we'll use it as a template for the piece that we will replace it with. Basically, just gotta get ourselves a nice rectangle of, probably, looking at it eyeballing it really quick, looks like it might be 16 gauge sheet metal, and then just get 2 bends on it and we'll be good to go. And I'm all about recycling metal, so this piece here is left over from one of these quarter panels that I took off. The inside is actually still fine, it's just got a little bit of the factory undercoating that was sprayed of it, and there's a little bit of surface rust. That'll buzz right off really quick. You'll have clean white metal, so you're not putting rusty metal back onto a rusty spot. And then we've already got one bend right here, so we're just gonna line it up and kind of cheat our way into starting our patch panel, and we'll trace this out, cut it, and then bend our other bend and get this thing fitted right. Another thing to consider as you're seeing as I'm tracing this out, I originally went to right here on this corner. And so if I just trace the exact size of this metal right now, sure, that's where it lines up. But you got to consider this metal is pushed up right now. There's actually distance here. We're looking at a pretty much flat piece of metal against one that's raised. So if I were to take this piece right now and smush it down, it would flatten out. And this end, which is right here, would probably come all the way down to this end. So we're just going to leave it full length. And then once we get this thing completely cut, we'll bend it up and then we can trim the end. Otherwise, if I cut it this short right now, when we go to bend this piece here and bend it down to match this bend right there, it's gonna wind up being short and it'll probably come up to maybe about here. A couple quick cuts later, and this is where we are. Really pretty straightforward. I leave a little bit of room on both ends, so this way it sticks out a little bit. And then we can always refine it once we put it in. But let's go ahead, let's mock it up real quick. You can see that with that cut, we're actually sitting right just inboard. I cut it a little bit short but that's okay. We'll be able to capture that in the weld. Yeah, it's not too bad at all. However, once we bend this piece up, we're gonna see that it should match up pretty good. So we'll bend it real quick. Okay, now we're gonna figure out, we're gonna bend this piece to get it to look just like this one. So if we go ahead and match up these two bends real quick, you can see that it's right about, yeah, right about there that this piece starts needing to bend. And so now we can match up where we need to start this bend on this side, which is right there and right there. Okay, so now I've drawn my line, which will guide me, and I'm gonna go ahead, and this is a really quick, easy way at home because I don't have a break out here in the garage yet, but there's a lot of ways that you can still get your ultimate goal. So let's see right there, it is lined up in the jaws, and we're gonna carefully bend it. Now, being that I'm not capturing the whole piece in here at one time, I'm just gonna make sure that I be very precise about how I'm bending this. Actually start here in the middle. Just like that. And you can see just from the quick little bend, just as much as I did there, we're already shaping up to look pretty similar to what we need. And now we'll just keep working the bend just a little bit more, and before you know it, this thing is exactly what we needed. All right, you can see that the radius of the bend is pretty close there, but we're also hanging up high on this side. So let's get this other angle bent in a little bit more. Can't be afraid of the metal, you just gotta work it, you know? The metal will go where you want it to go. You make the metal work for you. You know? Yeah, there's a lot of fancy machines, tools for doing stuff like this, but the way I'm showing you right now is the way that the average guy is going to do it at home and figure it out, and before you know it, got a piece that looks pretty good. Flip it around. Look at that. We're already 85% there. We probably don't need much more on this side. It's actually a little bit sharper here, but we just need a little bit more. Actually went a little bit too far on this end, which that's cool. We'll just bend it back out. It's too easy. Slide it in here and tighten our jaws. And we can just pull a little bit out. Look at that. Pretty damn close, huh? Now, honestly, once we get this thing over onto the car, you can tack in it along the top, and then you can also push it, bend it, move it, manipulate it however you need to, but that's pretty damn close. Happy with that right there. Now all you need to do is line this up and then mark off to trim our excess and get it back on the car. And as you're tracing it, you notice that I'm using this edge of the Sharpie and giving it probably about a 1/16 of an inch away from where the actual piece is lining up with the new piece under it. And I'm going to make sure that I trim on this side of the line. I want to still see this line when I'm done cutting. I don't want to cut with my grinder or with the shears or whatever you use and get rid of the Sharpie. Leave that little extra space so this way you guarantee that it's a little bit oversized, and then you can just slightly trim it with your grinder or whatever and get this thing fitting just the way you want it. Okay, let's see how we did. Still gotta make our cuts. But overall, look at that sitting right there. That looks pretty good to me. I like it. Okay, we're trimming off our excess now. And there you can see, Sharpie is still visible. Why am I cutting this with the cutting wheel instead of with a pair of like tin snips or something? I left them in the house. I'm doing a bathroom renovation downstairs, and yeah, plain and simple, I just didn't feel like cleaning up to go inside and go and get it. So we cut it like this. And now here we really are. Final matchup. There's our pieces. And now we can fit it up right in there. What do you know? Now we'll be able to weld that up, make it look really nice, almost like it never happened. But before we do that, all of this metal that's rusted out on the inside here, we're gonna go through and either I'll sandblast it, grind it out, whatever, get that metal cleaned up, then spray some rust protector inside of there, try and get some cavity wax or paint down this way too, as far into the rocker as I can. And then we can button this thing up. But we're not gonna cover this up like that. That would be a no-no. But yeah, there's a quick down and dirty for you guys on making a patch panel for pretty much anywhere on your car. The same method would apply, but specifically here for the rocker area. All right, this is gonna end us off for the day. I've got the rest of the old quarter panel cut off, and now we've revealed a little bit better of the inner structure and these inner panels that we'll need to repair. And we can go ahead and make patches for those. But that's it, boys and girls. Call that a day. Yeah, we really appreciate you guys watching along for the videos. Really trying my best to do everything that I can to get our projects going, get them completed. But yeah, you guys know how it goes. We'll be out here working on this car some more though throughout the winter. So stay tuned here for more updates on the Roadrunner, and see this thing completed here soon.